Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cool Sports Guy. I'm Tom. Joining me today is Jarrett. How are you today, Jarrett?
Doing better now that the power is back on after 2 days. But
Yeah.
to the viewers, there was a tornado in Southeast Texas, right next to my house. I slept through it, but woke up to panicked phone calls from my mother. So there was a tornado, and our power has been out for a couple days. That's partially why it's taken so long to get this recording done.
Isn't it wonderful to know that your mother still calls and just checks on you, on her little boy?
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you. Well, I'm glad you're okay, even though some houses on your street got destroyed.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Cool. All right. Well, enough tornado talks. We'll get right back into it. So obviously the divisional round for football is done. We did not really get a chance to catch too much up on the wild card round either, but we are almost at the conference round here. So we'll go ahead and just jump right in. So let's talk about the games we missed or haven't talked about yet. So we'll start with, I think the first one is, Kansas City, Jacksonville. I'll let you take this one first.
Okay, so one thing to preface this entire game, the Jaguars may have lost, but I feel like their future is so incredibly bright. Don't get me wrong, I'm very happy with Justin Fields. I love him to death, but I am excited for him to become a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, because Trevor Lawrence is a generational type guy. I know that was kind of like what he was viewed as out of high school, out of college. He got to the pros. He had a very rough rookie season, like most of the rookies last year. But he really turned it around once he got an actual head coach, not Urban Meyer. And he had a great season. I know they only played 2 playoff games, but I'm considering it. It was a very good playoff run for a very young, undisciplined team who has a lot of potential. Trevor Lawrence showed what kind of quarterback he was, and it was super impressive to watch, fun to watch. Jaguars are a very fun team. The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes did get hurt, and I know there's like the debate whether he played better after the injury, but I will say, as the Jaguars, you kind of have to take advantage of situations like that. Star quarterbacks going down most of the time ruins the game completely for a lot of teams. Chiefs didn't so happen that way. Mahomes toughed it out, played well. They got the win. But the Jaguars kept it close, which keeping it close against a team like Kansas City was impressive in itself. If I'm not mistaken, I think they were, at the end of the game, they were driving, could have gotten a touchdown and the ball back, but Agnew fumbled it at like the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
Was very soul-crushing. I wasn't really rooting for either team over the other, but I was hoping for a good game. It was a good game. That was a little bit of a soul-crushing fumble by Agnew there, but it was overall great game, bright future for both teams because of the generational quarterbacks they both have.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact timing of it. I do know when the fumble happened, there was not a lot of time left on the clock in the fourth. And just to clarify, Jacksonville was still down by 10 points at that point. So even if that fumble didn't happen, even if they go up and get a score, you would still have to get a stop and then go kick at least a field goal just to take the game overtime at that point. But worthy of mentioning, as Trevor Lawrence also on the previous drive threw an interception while they were
I think that wasn't that the drive after he threw the interception?
I think the interception happened first. I could be wrong. One of those. Either way, It was turnover and then turnover again.
Because I'm pretty sure they got, like, they fumbled it and the Chiefs got the ball, but then the Jaguars got a stop, got the ball back, and then Lawrence threw the pick. I'm pretty sure. It's been a long week. A lot has happened, so
it really has. But either way,
excuse me.
I think the biggest thing is as much. Okay, so look, here's the thing. Trevor Lawrence did throw an interception in the fourth quarter when they're trailing. I just want to clarify. You heard it here first. Does not mean the kid's not clutch. He stayed calm and collective as much as possible, not just in the Kansas City game, but also the game before where they were down 27 points and when they were having probably the biggest comeback he will ever have. You never know in today's NFL game, but I would assume 27-0. I would hope for Trevor that's the biggest comeback he's going to have to face, because that takes a lot to just stay calm and come back. But Yeah, obviously Jacksonville kind of shot themselves in the foot. I do think Mahomes did play better overall with that messed up messed up foot, not feet. He still went and got 2 touchdowns, I believe. And but also, just a quick shout out to Chad Henne, kept him in the game. Went on like a 90-yard drive to get a touchdown.
I want to say was it like 92 or 98 yards or something like that?
I think they pinned him inside the 10 when Jacksonville punted, and he just went right down and scored. And it was just, I'm like, man, that's.
I will say, not to cut you off, Henne, shout out to him. Yes, he did put that scoring drive together, but also this does not mean Patrick Mahomes is a system quarterback like I've seen on Twitter. So many people are like, oh, look, this obviously means that Andy Reid is such a good coach. He could win with anyone. He makes Patrick Mahomes look that good. That's not the case. I mean, he made Mahomes look better, yes, but Mahomes is just that good.
I mean, I'll say something you might not agree with. I think Mahomes will look just as good without Andy Reid.
Oh, I would agree. I think Mahomes is just like probably the most talented quarterback I've ever seen.
But I don't know if Mahomes will look just as good without Travis Kelce.
That is fair.
That is an unbelievable connection.
I will say, though, again, I'd hate to cut you off. They said the same thing last offseason, like, oh, Mahomes lost Tyreek Hill.
But I didn't.
He's not. I get that, yeah. But they, acted like he was going to be, would lose, a top 5 quarterback spot because he lost Tyreek Hill, and he had a better season without him.
No, so I think the difference is Tyreek Hill, he had all the speed in the world. He can get behind anybody, and Mahomes had the arm strength, obviously, to just throw the ball down the field, and he's accurate with it. Kelce, on the other hand, I think in critical situations, I think at this point, every player on every team knows, oh, it's a 3rd down, or we're in red zone, cover Kelce. That's your assignment. Forget everybody and everything else. Just cover Kelce, and there's a chance that you'll get a stop. And somehow, he doesn't outrun people. He just gets wide open.
It's kind of weird if you've seen him run. He doesn't run fast.
He doesn't run fast. But that's what I'm saying. I think Kelce, one, they have an unbelievable connection. But on top of that, Kelce is... I'm not at all calling Tyreek stupid. Tyreek is fast. Kelce plays football smart. Kelce, just like a quarterback, can line up and see where the weak spot is, and he just knows that's where he's gonna go, and he just kind of run there, and Travis just kind of put the ball there, and not Travis, Mahomes just kind of put the ball there for him. So it is unbelievable, and I think that oftentimes it's almost like it was almost like the security blanket of Brady and Gronk. It's like, when in doubt, where's Kelce? And oh, here he is, wide open. Just put the ball to him.
So my opinion, I think if he did lose Kelce, he definitely wouldn't have as good of stats. But I think pure talent-wise, I think he would still look just as good.
He is one of the most talented players ever.
I know. I feel like we talked about this last episode where we had said that it's crazy to say Mahomes. This is like his fifth season starting in the league, and he already
AFC.
I could say he's like the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. Just pure
overall
talent. He's insane.
I think overall most talented QB I've ever seen, because and you're gonna disagree with me big time here, and I think there's a little bit of recency bias here because we've been seeing a little bit of downfall. I think the most talented thrower of the football I've ever seen is Aaron Rodgers.
Oh no, I'm not disagreeing with you at all.
I used to say that he is the most physically talented quarterback I've ever seen. Now, physically talented player, very different than a physically talented quarterback, in my opinion. People used to give me a lot of crap when I said Aaron Rodgers is the most physically talented QB I've seen. It's just like, what about Cam Newton? What about no. I'm not talking about just a person who can just run really well. Aaron Rodgers used to make some incredible throws, and now Mahomes is doing it, and I think Mahomes is a bit more physically talented. I still think I'll take Rodgers in his prime's throwing ability over Mahomes, but overall, for sure, I think Mahomes is more physically talented.
I feel like that would be a super fun debate to talk about prime Rodgers versus Mahomes.
Dude,
listen.
Sorry, go ahead.
I despise Rodgers, but I've been saying for years that I think he's probably the most talented quarterback that I've ever seen. I do hate the guy. I think Mahomes. You say you would take Rodgers' throwing ability. We can make this a separate episode of ranting over this, but I think I would maybe even it could be recency bias. I'm not sure, but I think I might lean towards Mahomes just because I feel like he maybe loses a little bit of accuracy, but he has quite substantially more like power behind his throws. But it's definitely a debate there.
But I think that's my point. I think like you want somebody to throw hey, I'm going to put this dime on the field 80, 75 yards down the field. I need one of you guys to hit it. I'm taking Rodgers in his prime. It's
fair. I'm not debating you, but I'm not debating you either. Like it is definitely a discussion.
Yeah, it's close. Anyway, but listen, I think here's the good news. Mahomes came back. He was limping a lot less, I feel like, towards the end of the game than when he initially came right back into the game. Obviously, there are still some questions. He's obviously cleared to play. I think he'll still do a good job. I just to clarify, I did pick the Bengals to win against the Chiefs even before any of this happened, and I think that's still going to happen, only because I just think that the Bengals have an overall better team, but we'll get into that in a second. As far as the Jags, if you're a Jacksonville fan this morning, yes, listen, you guys lost. It sucks. I get it, but I would be excited. You are in a division that is currently crumbling every minute as we speak. The Titans are looking like garbage. The Texans can never figure anything out. And, well, the Colts also sucks. And you have a Super Bowl winning coach, and you have a winner for a quarterback, and you have a good team around you, and you guys might look pretty good. So you should be happy. Unless you have anything else to add, I'll move to the next one.
I think that's about it.
Cool. What's the next game? All right. Bengals Bills. Haha. Called it. Listen, I'm going to say something controversial, and you might hate me for saying this. Actually, I don't know. I don't think you can. I think you're going to care less for me saying this. I think the Bills being a superstar team window's closed, and they're done. I think last year was their best year. Unfortunately, game went into overtime, and they couldn't pull it off. I think the Bills this year has not looked anything close to the Bills last year, and I think the Bills moving forward, I don't even know if Stephon Diggs have a future with the Bills. So, just want to throw that out there.
Listen, I don't want this to come across, because I know I've made the argument that like just because they have one bad playoff game doesn't mean that they're not a good quarterback. We have texted about this before. Josh Allen, he is so talented. Like, I have him as probably my number 4 quarterback in the league. He's an insanely talented quarterback, but sometimes I worry if he's a quarterback capable of winning a Super Bowl. I know how he's a top 4 guy. That makes it sound absolutely insane, but he just has so many games every year where he just makes the worst decisions and has bad games like often. You know, it happened last year. There was against Jacksonville, who was the worst team in the league. That should have been a blowout, and then he struggled mightily. This year in the playoffs, the first game against Miami, he didn't have like a bad game, but it wasn't, elite level. This game, he had a very, again, mediocre-esque game. Like, to win in the playoffs, you do have to kind of take it to that next step. That's what Brady's always been good at.
So I'm gonna tell you 2 things. I'm gonna defend him, and then I'm gonna attack him. I'm gonna defend him in a sense and say that the Bills had 3 offensive linemen that is currently hurt, and everybody thought that Burrow is going to be under a lot of pressure. It was the opposite. Somehow the Bengals defensive line was getting to Josh Allen with no time to spare. They were getting to the Bills offensive line could not hold them. I will give Josh Allen a little bit of excuse there and say that they were getting home. That being said, here's where I'm going to attack Josh Allen. You can't just throw the ball down the field when it's a 3rd and short.
Fair.
You gotta take what you get, man. If it's a 3rd and 2, you need to just learn how to pick up the first down and keep going. Stop throwing it 20, 30 yards down the field. To who? To what? To nothing. And that definitely cost you the game a lot. Just saying. Also, yeah, there were definitely times where Diggs was open and he was just throwing into double coverage for no reason.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about. He's such a good quarterback. I don't know if it's a coaching issue.
He's a better Dak Prescott.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, maybe it depends on what you mean by better Dak Prescott.
He's really good. He's really talented, but he's inconsistent. You cannot count on him to consistently be good in multiple playoffs in the same series.
Because I will say, like, the last year, I mean, given that was a pretty good, comparison, but last year he only played to the divisional round, and he had, in those 2 games, he had a near perfect playoff run, but just the defense couldn't get a stop, and they lost to Kansas City. So he has the ability to do it, but I just feel like those bad games just pop up too often for them to actually be a playoff contender, unless he has like a, like the Eagles. Jalen Hurts can have a bad game, but they're good enough to win despite him. The 49ers could have me at quarterback, and we could probably make a Super Bowl run, given how good that team is.
Okay.
Hey, I could play quarterback. I got a little bit of
an
arm on me. Yeah, I mean, and they win like that. I'm the young one. You would be like Jimmy G. Plus, you got that beard, so you basically are Jimmy G.
Do I have the GQ look too?
Yeah, obviously.
I'm 5'6" though.
They camera angles, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, it's so hard for me to say this because I love Josh Allen, and I kind of was like rooting for the Bills.
I've been a victim too.
But he's got to be more consistent to make it to the next level.
The Bills, just like a lot of people, were my preseason picks because of how amazing they looked in the postseason last year, and I just thought they were going to be better this year. Here's the thing. Let's look at the 2 teams that they beat. A Patriots team that probably should not have made the playoffs last year.
Yeah, fair.
Okay. And that's the Patriot team that they beat twice. Actually, sorry, they beat once last year because one of them was the game where it was like the snowstorms.
They ran
game.
Like three, or there was like three
throws from the Patriots, correct. But when they were on a normal weather head-to-head, they destroyed the Patriots, and then they destroyed the Patriots again in the playoffs, which, again, Patriots probably should not have been in the playoffs that year. The Patriots being in the playoffs last year was almost just like the Bucs being in the playoffs this year. Probably didn't belong there, but it's okay. And then they beat the Chiefs, or they didn't beat the Kansas City Chiefs team, but the Chiefs also did not have the best defense last year.
Last year there was like the whole debate, like mid-regular season, are the Chiefs done? Could they lose the division? Yeah. And they had that turnaround.
Yeah, they did, but it was offensively turned around. The defense really didn't do too much, I feel like, to turn it around. I feel like do you think about it? The freaking Bengals, oh my God, what's
Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow. I keep wanting to say Joe Montana. I'm like, it's now Montana, clearly. Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times by the Titans, and because of Ryan Tannehill's bad game, they won the game. And I don't even think the Chiefs sacked him, at least not more than twice last year. The game went overtime. I don't think the Chiefs had the best defense in the world last year.
Oh, they definitely didn't. That was like definitely a very weak spot of that team.
So that's what Josh Allen beat. Or didn't even beat.
I guess that is fair. One thing to kind of not talk about Josh Allen for an hour. Joe Burrow, he is so much fun to watch. I was just hyping up Trevor Lawrence. I wanted Joe Burrow. That's what I want. Like, it's insane how, I know it's his nickname, like Joe Burr or whatever. He's just so calm and like
cool.
Well, yeah, it's both. He has many nicknames.
Well, Joe Cool initially was a Joe Montana nickname.
I'm not old enough to know that, to be honest. But he's just so like calm and collected in the pocket, even with a blitz in his face. I know we had texted about this play during the game. It was the first touchdown pass to Jamar Chase. They blitzed and just straight face like rolls up into the pocket and throws an absolute perfect pass to Chase. I mean, given he wasn't that covered, but still, Like the blitz didn't phase him like it does a lot of inexperienced quarterbacks. I think we tend to forget Burrow isn't even that experienced in the NFL. There was his rookie season, he tore his ACL and missed like the majority of it. Then last year he went to the Super Bowl, and this year they got a very good shot to go back to another one.
He does. I know a lot of people say this, but I will say the calmness in the pocket does remind me a lot of Montana, Brady, Peyton Manning, because it's just calm in the pocket, and even when they line up, I think quite often he's beating the defense with his head rather than his ability to run out of pocket or whatnot. So I will give him a lot of credit there. The one area that I do fear a little bit, which you don't really consider too much when you're that young, is it's not always as cool as you look. It's not always the smartest idea just to step into the pocket when there's a blitz coming to your face. These are 300-pound men running right at you. One bad hit, man. That's all it takes sometimes. So he should be a little careful, but he's a lot of fun to watch. I am rooting for him. Hopefully this whole Mahomes and Burrow thing turns into a rivalry rather than stupid Josh Allen and Mahomes.
I will say one thing. So, I live in Texas, but it's basically Louisiana, as you say. If I miss one exit, I'm in Louisiana. So Burrow, went to LSU. Everyone around here absolutely loves Burrow, so it makes it a lot easier to love Burrow. Nice. He's one of my favorite players in the entire league. Like, it's that new wave of quarterbacks, and he's going to be right at the top of that with Mahomes, and I'm very excited for his career. I know we're only like 3 seasons into it, but he's a very young, fun player.
Well, we'll see what happens. They're still all on rookie contracts too, so the Bengals have all the time in the world right now and the money. So anyway, moving on to the next game. The Bills one was sad to watch. I thought they'll at least put up a fight. It was pathetic to watch. Oh, by the way, the game was in Buffalo.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Talk about another game that was sad to watch. Giants traveling to Eagles, taking on the division rival, lost 38-7.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with something that you and me both love to talk about is Mr. Daniel Dimes. Listen, I do think that he has the ability to be like a solid game manager, maybe even a slight step ahead of that. But I feel like all season long, the Giants had a very good season, given the talent on their roster and what Daniel Jones had to work with. But people acted like Daniel Jones was all of a sudden some kind of like, top tier quarterback, could be considered elite or something like that. It's been a conversation, and I think this game, not just this game, but this is a big reason is that he's not at that level, and he probably won't get to that level. He did have a better season, but I'm going to give a lot more of the credit to Daboll, because same thing with Josh Allen. With Daboll, he had the least amount of turnovers in his career. Then this season, whenever he left to go to the Giants, Josh Allen led the league in turnovers. I think Daboll is just that good of a coach for quarterbacks, kind of like an Andy Reid. And can get the most out of anybody. But I think the Giants still need to try and find a different answer at quarterback other than Daniel Jones, sadly. The Giants team also, it's a big turning point for their roster going into this offseason. Their defense is solid and has a lot of young pieces. Their offense, they probably have the worst receiver core in the league. They have solid pieces on the offensive line. And then there's Daniel Jones, who is a question mark. And at running back, Saquon Barkley is actually going to be a free agent this offseason. And I know most good teams don't pay second contracts to running backs because usually in the past it is shown to not be a good financial decision. So they might not have Saquon next year. I don't know how big of a step back they would take from that. I'm not sure. But they have potential, I think, due to coaching, but they do have a very talentless roster at the moment.
So I will say 2 things. So number one is that I, just like everybody at one point or another, I've also been, caught off guard or been a victim of recency bias. And I came on the show and I said, I think Daniel Jones is actually good. And boy, was I wrong, because for like 3 straight years, I kept saying, he's not good. He's not a good quarterback. I was in the same exact boat. And then recently I was pointed out, hey, he needs an offensive line. And then I went and saw, watched some of the games closer, and I was like, man, his offensive line really, really does suck. They started getting better throughout the season, but man, if you go look at last year and the way they're playing, well, a lot of the games they played this year too, their offensive line was actually not good at all. But I will say this, I think it's all about timing, because we keep saying that the Giants actually had a good team, or a good season.
Good season for the talentless roster, yes.
Well, if you add the for a talentless roster, then yes. But if not, they were 500. They won 9 games. They lost 8 games, and that's after starting, I think, 6-1.
Well, they tied 1 game, but
oh, there you go. Anyway, the point is, yeah, look, he is. I think if you have all the right pieces around him, he could be good, but that's it. I don't think he's going to take you far into the playoffs. I think if he has a good offensive line, if his first read is available most of the time, or he has the ability, I think the good thing Dayball did was say, if your first read isn't there, just take off and run. It seems like, and if he has the option to do that each time, he could be pretty good. But I don't know if he's going to be great, unfortunately. And yes, they need a new quarterback.
Yeah, I know he would never take this deal, but I feel like Daniel Jones would be a very a top tier backup quarterback, as opposed to a low end starter.
Well, I think considering how his season went this year, there's a slight chance they might give him a contract just to keep playing with New York, just to see what Dayball can get out of him. But if anything, I'll say he's got one more year before they try to trade him. Or
yeah, the thing with the Giants, I don't know any quarterbacks that would be available for them to replace him with, and they kind of played themselves out of a top pick to get a quarterback. I mean, if that's what the route, that could be a good route. Dayball's shown to be a good coach, so I'm not.
I mean, Dayball's worked with Patriots for a long time, right?
Someone like that, yeah. Before
he was an assistant with the Patriots.
Then he went to Alabama, and then to Buffalo, and now he's with the Giants. To not keep it all Giants for the Eagles, I think there's not much to say. They had a great game. Hurts,
they dominated.
Hurts still is technically injured, I believe, and he played great. I don't listen. I'm not gonna be mad with whoever wins the Super Bowl at this point, except maybe the 49ers. Cough, cough. The Eagles, I think I don't know, because I really like the Bengals because I want Joe Burrow to get a Super Bowl. But the Eagles, Jalen Hurts was so hated on to start his career, and I will admit I was one of those people. I didn't really trust him as a thrower even last season when we did our quarterback rankings. I'm pretty sure I had him in the 20s.
I think I did too. Well, it's not that. Okay, look, you can only judge someone from what you've seen, and Jalen Hurts really, as great as he was this season, he wasn't that great the season before, I think.
From what I saw, he wasn't bad, but he looked, I don't know how to word it.
It's a better Daniel Jones.
Yeah. he had the arm talent, but the accuracy just wasn't good enough, in my opinion, and I didn't know if he was going to improve on it as quickly as he did. He definitely has the running ability. We have seen that. But he had improved so much as a passer this season, and so he has definitely jumped up very much. Not even debatably, he's a top 10 quarterback in the league now. But he had a great game. Devontae Smith, their number 2 wide receiver, if you didn't know, is one of my favorite players in the league. The Slim Reaper. He kind of screwed me in fantasy 3 or 4 games this season, but I still love him. The Eagles are a fun team to watch as well. I don't really have much to say. They dominated the game. Every single facet of the game, they dominated. It wasn't really close at any point. They basically embarrassed the Giants. So
I will just say one thing. Maybe it's not the greatest comparison in the world, but I'm not going to be super hot on the Eagles just yet, for the simple fact that this could also potentially be a reminder of what Buffalo did to New England last year.
That is fair.
So they're about to face a defense
The best
that
defense in the league.
is
So.
far better. And not to put Brock Purdy in this at all, but again, you said it yourself. It's an offense where you can pretty much insert anybody. It's the only offense in the league where you can just say the QB really doesn't matter.
It's bizarre to say that, but yeah.
It is. It's very bizarre to say that because there's 31 teams in the league you can't say that for, and then there's a 32nd team where it's just like really weird. But you know what? I think the QB matters a little bit. We're gonna get to that in a second here, but overall, they're gonna have a tougher game coming up. They are playing at home, so we'll see what they do. But yeah, now I gotta give Eagles credit. They definitely went further than I thought. I obviously picked the Giants to win the game, but that was also just in hopes of, after they beat Minnesota, I was just like, all right, let's just keep going. I'm just gonna pick you guys to win.
I may have done awful picking in the wild card, but the divisional round I was perfect. So
yeah,
improvement.
I was almost perfect in my wild card. If I didn't pick on my bias pick and pick the Bucks, I would have been 100%. But it is what it is. But my wild card did include the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they came back from a 27-0 deficit, so I'm okay with it. Did you pick again? I forgot.
Wait, I don't remember.
Oh,
it's been too long. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Cowboys to San Francisco. There's nothing to talk about. It's the Cowboys. It's a divisional round. That's as long as they get. That's as far as I get, and they're done after that.
I want to say one thing about this. I don't need to talk about this for long. I get Dak is getting a ton of hate, but I mean, he had a bad game against the best defense in the league. It happens. I do kind of question if you can win a Super Bowl with Dak. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, Cowboys fans acting like, oh, let's just get rid of Dak and then we'll win more games because we'll have a different quarterback. I don't think they realize how hard it is to get a franchise quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. No. Yes, you are correct. But can I just ask, like, how many games in a row do you expect Dak to stay consistently good in? It's a serious question.
If it's the regular season, I could see it a lot, but the playoffs are not his spot.
His very first year, right, when they had the best offensive line in football, when Zeke was one of the best looking running backs you've seen in a long time, and they had a pretty good defense. They played, do you remember that Packers game? That's who they got eliminated by. It was the Packers. It was like 31-31 tied, and then the Packers kicked a field goal to win the game or something like that. But that was his best playoff game, in my opinion. Well, second best, because they dominated the Buccaneers, which don't get me started on, because I'm going to have a whole lot of list of things to tell you about that defense that been telling you that defense sucks, but whatever. I don't want to get into that right now. I don't want to get into that right now. My point is, like, you may be right. It's hard to get a franchise quarterback, but at the same time, Dak's not going to take you deep into the playoffs.
Which I get, and that's why it's a tough, that's why being a GM in the NFL is very tough, because if you don't have a top quarterback, the chances of you making a Super Bowl are very, very slim. But just because you don't have a top quarterback, do you just rebuild again and again until you get one and then build around that? Like, it's...
Yeah, but the defense, I think the difference is, like, if Dak would have played 80% as good as he can, they would have won that game.
If he would have played 60% as good as he can,
they would have won that game.
The 49ers did not have a good game. Brock Purdy was relatively awful in that game as well.
Because the Cowboys also have a really good defense. The Cowboys have a really good defense, and I don't think their play calling out of the blue just changes out of nowhere and they just don't know what to do. Dak... Think about it. They had one good touchdown drive. That was it. Other than that, because how many points did they score? 12? Yeah.
I think it was something like that.
There was a missed field goal after the touchdown, so that was 6 points.
Brett Maher's special, you know.
Well, I mean, it was blocked.
It was going to miss anyways. I don't know if you saw the video, but it was...
Just let the kid have it. It was blocked, okay?
Sure.
Whatever. He was putting a curve on it, whatnot. The point is, that happened. And then they scored 6 more points, 2 field goals. Do you know where one of the field goals came from?
No.
Botched kick return.
Okay. Also, I will. Speaking of the
Inside.
kick return, this is completely off topic of talking quarterback play, but that kick return should have been a touchdown. I don't know how he ran directly into the kicker. He could have went to the left, scored a touchdown, or went to the right and scored a touchdown. He's like, no, directly into the kicker. That's how I'm going to score. Which,
Cowboys.
Kevontae Turpin, I never want to see a single Cowboys fan ever compare you to Devin Hester again. That was awful. He did really good in the preseason. All Cowboys fans are like, oh, he's better than Hester. He's the greatest returner I've ever seen.
But you're talking about the return turning into 3 points. I'm talking about when the Cowboys kicked it to the 49ers. The return man for the 49ers fumbled the football inside the freaking 49ers 20-yard line, and the Cowboys couldn't even come away with a touchdown from that.
To not put all of the blame on Dak, I'm not saying Dak deserves no blame. He deserves a lot of blame.
I don't put all the blame on Dak. I just put 98% of it on Dak.
So Tony Pollard, their best running back by a giant margin, got hurt. They had to rely on Zeke.
Because they were saying they were playing so good before that.
Listen. They didn't need to play that much better to win that game. They just had to score like one more touchdown.
But they weren't playing good enough to win the game with Pollard.
I get that. But then whenever you go from a downgrade from Pollard to Ezekiel Elliott, that makes it that much harder for you. Again, I'm not trying to completely take any blame off of Dak. I'm just saying Zeke, this is basically me going out of my way to tell you that Zeke is a bad running back and is so washed.
Zeke
and he makes that team so much worse. They have so much money put into him. You know how I was saying earlier about the Giants not paying Saquon?
Yeah, where do you think
Zeke
that comes
was
from?
Great when they got the contract.
Where do you think that comes from?
You mean like don't pay running backs?
Like Zeke is one of the prime.
Todd Gurley, Alvin Kamara is basically at that point as well. Dalvin Cook. Once you hit like 27 running backs, are done. Their knees are gone.
And now apparently Zeke is willing to take a pay cut just to stay in Dallas.
I don't know. Dan Quinn, if you didn't know, is not taking a head coaching job because he wants to stay in Dallas to, quote, win a Super Bowl. Dan Quinn, you're going to be there forever if you don't just leave.
Sad. Okay. Dan Quinn's going to start looking like Jerry Jones here, waiting for a Super Bowl. Well, look, real quick. San Francisco. You said they didn't play that good. I think they were pretty good.
Their defense played well.
Yeah, their defense played well. But I think I think that's scary. Right? Like they can beat you almost any way.
Okay, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it as their offense played bad and they still won, or you could look at it as Brock Purdy finally played a good defense and he looked abysmal. There's two ways to look at it.
Sure, but they won. San Francisco 49ers, the team, still won.
I'm not disagreeing because obviously that's a fact, but I'm just saying.
But also, I mean, I get it. Has he really not played a good defense?
I don't know if I would go that far. I was mostly making a point here, but yeah. I mean, I can't even. The first playoff game was against the Seahawks. The Seahawks don't have a bad defense, but they also, I don't know what happened in that second half.
But he played well in that second half. He dominated in the second half, whether you like it or not. He came back and threw like 2 or 3 touchdowns in the second half.
Played well, maybe. Okay, listen, I know me, you, and Jose had this debate on the whole check down thing. I understand that it's the smartest thing, and I agree, because Justin Fields tries to play hero ball and doesn't do checkdowns enough. But Brock Purdy has not once shown me in all of the games I've watched of his that he can do anything but check down. So if they get into a big hole, I don't see them coming back.
No, here's the thing. Okay. I think you're confusing check down for well-designed plays.
I'm talking throwing it past 5 yards.
Brock Purdy definitely throws the ball. His average, I looked it up after we had that conversation. Brock Purdy's average air distance on a completed pass is over 11 yards from the line of scrimmage.
Is that a big? I don't know how in comparison to other quarterbacks.
I mean,
if that's good or not.
if you're standing 3 feet or 3 to 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and your average is 11 yards from the line of scrimmage, that means you're throwing the ball.
Does it do it from the line of scrimmage, or does it do it from where he throws it at?
Either or. I mean, a first down is 10 yards away. What else do you want? That's the I think there's a big difference between just chuck down to like, hey, there's a guy like that's like 2 yards from the line of scrimmage and a very well designed play. Here's where I'll give you credit, and I think this is what you're trying to say. Brock Purdy, when he's throwing to a wide open receiver, is hitting him amazingly well. When people are covered, he's struggling to make those passes. I think that's the difference. But Brock Purdy is not throwing the ball right at or right in front of the line of scrimmage. He is throwing the ball down the field. I promise you that. Go back and watch the games. He is definitely throwing the balls down the field. I just think it's designed so well for him. He doesn't have to, half of the time when he's making those throws, if his receiver doesn't catch it, he doesn't have to worry about the ball being turned over. I think that's the difference. But when the receivers are actually covered, he is struggling to get those completions. I will give you credit there. And that's why I'm saying that the San Francisco 49ers are one of the very few teams where you can just plug a guy and say, hey, throw the ball over there and you're good. You can't really do that with many of the other teams. But he's not chunked like dinking and dunking 5 yards down the field. True story. Just saying.
Okay. I am saying we have a slide specifically dedicated to this, so we can. I mean, we kind of.
Oh, we do.
All,
that's right. All right.
We kind of covered it all, but people.
But you know what? Listen, I can see the game going either way, but this weekend, obviously, I had the 49ers. You have the Eagles.
I haven't officially made my pick yet, thank you.
You literally texted and said you want to change your pick.
I'd never said I would.
Was that Jose?
That was probably Jose. I haven't said that a single time in the group chat.
You need to stop doing that.
I just sent you like 10 minutes before the game. I send you my picks for the game.
Oh, I didn't even see it.
That's what I've been doing the past 2 weeks. I haven't said I changed anything.
Okay.
I mean, other than my original playoff picks,
that's
where I was wrong immediately.
We suck at picking, so.
Yeah, honestly, I should retire. But
we'll move on to the next. Is there any more games? Oh no, there you go. We're done with the games. How important is a tight end?
I wanted to add this slide specifically because tight end is the most hated on position in football, and I hate it.
Why?
Why do I hate it, or why is it the most hated?
Why is it the most hated position?
People act like tight end doesn't matter. Most, as you can tell.
Ask Tom Brady who went from Gronk to freaking.
Yeah, because he went from Gronk to Cameron Brate or Cade Otton, and he isn't here winning Super Bowls because tight end matters. It's the safety blanket for the quarterback. The Chiefs, debatably the best offense in football. You know why? Great tight end. Best tight end in the league. Maybe best tight end ever.
Made that. I brought that up earlier. I said.
I know we kind of covered all these topics, but I need to rant. All right, let me rant. George Kittle, probably the second best tight end in football. 49ers, very good team. They don't even need him to catch most of the time. He's a great blocker as well. Dallas Goedert, another great offense, another great tight end. The Ravens literally have nobody but Mark Andrews on that offense, and they still are a pretty decent offense because just the tight end position. If you look at some like the better tight ends in the league, they all of the better offenses have a good tight end. That's just how it works.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think if teams were smarter, they would use tight ends more. And then that's what these teams are doing. A tight end is a person who you can literally, and I mean literally, use as an offensive line. A tight end could be an extra offensive line who just blocks for you, and then out of the blue just say, oh, I'm done blocking. You can go through. I'm just going to run up 3 yards, and then I'm going to catch the ball.
A good example. So the Shanahan offense and Shanahan coaching tree, they utilize tight end a lot. The Packers with Matt LaFleur, they have that kind of, he's from that coaching tree. He runs the same style of offense. One big difference from years past to this year that I noticed, I feel like they didn't utilize the tight end as much as years past. And look what happened. Their offense was not nearly as good. Tight end is so important because it opens up the offense. It's a safety blanket for your quarterback. Just get a good tight end. Tight end is such a valuable position. Tight end's my favorite position in football. If you didn't know, I love tight ends.
Did not know that.
I basically played tight end in middle school when my 1 year I played football, so I kind of have a love for them. I love tight ends, and they're valuable, and I think this needs to be talked about more, in my opinion.
QB.
I mean, most people's is probably QB.
Yeah,
but
the most valuable position in sports, in my opinion. But
I don't know, tight end's kind of up there.
All right. No, but okay. So here's the thing. I think teams are also being smart enough to use tight ends. If you look, like, except for the Patriots, I would say quite often tight ends more than catching passes. They just used them strictly to make blocks in the past. And now they're actually utilizing tight ends more and more in the receiving game. And I think that's why it's starting to look. I mean, if you look at Kelsey and, even Kittle, that crazy catch against the Cowboys. I don't know if you remember it.
Yes, that was insane.
I think tight ends being used more in the receiving game is benefiting teams a lot more, and I think people are starting to see the value of tight ends more.
Well, Kyle Pitts was just drafted 4th overall at tight end.
There you go.
Given tight ends, some tight ends are basically just wide receivers now, like Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
I like the true tight ends who, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Kelsey, but I like the ones who can block and catch.
Gronk.
Gronk.
I think that's a perfect 50-50 match right there. Is Gronkowski.
Gronk, Kittle, Cole Kmet in Chicago, one of my favorite players on the team. So I got to shout him out. I like the ones who can block. The ones who can catch, great. Don't get me wrong. They deserve their credit too, but I like the ones who can do both.
Fair enough. You done ranting about your tight ends?
Also, so as you can see, 3 of the 4 AFC or conference championship teams have a top 5 tight end. The Bengals, not a bad tight end either. Hayden Hurst... Excuse me. Sorry, my allergies are bad. Hayden Hurst isn't a bad tight end. I mean, he's not bad. He's not elite. He's an upper. He's above average tight end. And I'm just saying, tight end's important. Just NFL teams listen to me.
Cool. I agree with you, and they're very important. But we'll see which one of these Titans gets to lift a Lombardi trophy here. Probably gonna be Kittle. We'll see. Moving on. Brock Purdy just good? I watched that question.
Good reading there, Tom. Is Purdy good, or is he just in a good situation? Okay, I feel like I have probably overhated Purdy, and that's not what my goal is here. I don't think he's like some awful garbage quarterback or anything like that. He's a smart guy, but I don't think it might just be because I spend too much time on Twitter that I see 49ers fans saying, oh, he's like already top 15, top 10 quarterback in the league. No.
That's nuts.
He is probably like the 20 to 25 range, personally. I think that's very fair.
I'll say more like 18.
I could see that too.
Okay.
I haven't made an official list, but
I want to ask you one question.
Yes.
Do you think the 49ers would be going to the NFC Championship game right now if they still had Trey Lance or Jimmy G as quarterback?
Trey Lance, I don't know, because I do pay attention to draft time. I didn't watch North Dakota State, so I don't really know Trey Lance's like what he actually would look like playing. Garoppolo, yes, I think they would be at the exact same spot, without a doubt.
Are you serious?
What, you mean beat the Cowboys?
I don't even know if they would have gotten there.
I think
you're talking about you just to clarify, you're talking about the guy who stepped out of his own end zone to lose a game.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly 100% believe they would be in the same spot.
Wow.
I don't think Purdy is better than Jimmy G is.
I think Purdy's currently, as we speak, playing better than Jimmy Garoppolo has in recent years. That's just my opinion. I don't think Purdy's that like a top 10 quarterback or anything. And here's the thing. Could he be? Sure. I don't know.
Oh, I'm not talking about the future.
We haven't seen enough from Brock Purdy for me to say that he's a top 10 or the number 32 in the league. Like, we've seen 6 games out of the guy. You have no idea. But I think he is playing better than Jimmy G has in recent years.
potential out the window because I'm not saying this guy will never be a good quarterback, but as of now, from what I've seen, I think he's a low-end starter. I think he could be better, but I think he's a low-end starter.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how he does against a really good Eagles, and Eagles also has a good offense, so he might actually have to step
If
up
he has
and make plays.
Not just if they beat the Eagles, but if they beat the Eagles, even if they lose, but if Purdy has a great game, I will be shut up a little bit because I want to see Purdy have a good. I'm not hating on. I say kid. If you didn't know, Brock Purdy's my age. We're the same age. Which makes me feel great about myself that I'm still struggling in college, and here he is, about to be in an NFC Championship game. I'm not hating on him, but I want to actually see him be this quarterback that everyone's making him out to be, and that's all I want. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If it happens, it happens. But I feel like recency bias makes everyone overrate or overhate players, and it's too much for me. It gets me in a ranty mood. So that's why I added it.
Oh, we'll see what he does in 2 days here. So good luck to you, buddy. We're gonna move on to our last topic, and I'm gonna let you take it because I feel like you want to go on a rant about this one too. Justin Herbert overrated.
Of recency bias, I understand Herbert didn't have a great game in his first playoff game versus the Jaguars. I need to start bringing more water to the table. I'm out. But he didn't have a bad game. He had just an okay game, which I know I was kind of hating on Josh Allen for. But this was, yes, the first playoff game of his career. I mean, last year against the Raiders, it was basically a win and you're in, lose and you're out situation. And he had one of the best games I've ever seen from a quarterback. Like, he played insane in that game. That was like the first game I truly was like, Justin Herbert is a great quarterback. I feel like him losing this one playoff game, even in the manner it was, does not mean that all of a sudden he's not a top 10 quarterback or all of this stuff. Herbert is my number 3 quarterback in the NFL. It's Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, and I feel like that's not a bizarre thing to say. I don't care about one playoff game. I don't think because Daniel Jones beat the Vikings, Daniel Jones is the top 10 quarterback in the league. That's not how it works.
So much better.
It's a team sport. Yes, the quarterback matters, but you have to actually watch the quarterback play, not just the scoreboard afterwards. Herbert had a great first half. The second half was bad, but they also, if you didn't know, other than his first down scramble, they had, I don't remember, I think it was -3 rushing yards in the entirety of the second half. I don't know another quarterback who could actually do anything when they literally have negative run game. That's incredibly hard to do. You have to run the ball to open up the offense. That doesn't happen if they know you can't run the ball. I also think Brandon Staley, there's a gnat. Brandon Staley is an awful coach, should have been fired. I don't know how he still kept his job. Bizarre to me. I think Herbert
probably gonna get fired.
I think it's too late. I think if he would have been fired, it would have happened already. Next year, he'll probably be fired whenever they do the same exact thing. But Herbert, I think, is definitely overhated. He is the 3rd best quarterback in the league. Not even up for debate, in my opinion. I think either the Chargers are just cursed or he needs a better team around him because all of these injuries are atrocious.
Okay, so I have 3 minutes, so I'm going to make it as quick as possible. So I have a 3-4-fold answer. Here's the thing. So obviously, we also got into a text rant about Herbert.
I was a little feisty, so I apologize.
I think there's some miscommunication here. I want to make it very clear. I don't think Herbert played bad. I don't think the game was on Herbert. I don't think Herbert played bad. I don't think it was his fault that they lost the game. But on the other hand, yeah, I'm 100% blaming the Chargers just as a whole for losing that game. They had no business losing that game. You are correct. You got -3 yards, and with that, you really can't do much. But here's the thing. They went up 27-0, and then they put up 3 points after that. Right? They could have put up 6 because they missed the second field goal. I get that. But aside from those 2 field goals, they clearly, even with throwing the ball, they weren't able to move the ball enough to go get even field goals, right? But this is what I want to say. One, when you're up by 4 scores and you're snapping the football before your play clock even runs down to under 10 seconds, dude, your number one goal at that point is to waste time. You want to run the clock down. They didn't care about that. And yeah, you're getting negative yards, but you know what happens each time you run the freaking ball? You waste 2 to 3 seconds running the ball, you get tackled, and then you get to waste 40 more seconds each time. I get that Jacksonville went on. And lastly, here's where I want to blame the Chargers. You're up by 2. It is freaking, I think it was 4th and 5, and Chargers have scored, or the Jags have scored on 4 straight drives. They've scored touchdowns on 4 straight drives, and you punt the ball. I don't know what they expected. Okay. I don't know what they expected. None of that is on Herbert, but that's on the Chargers. So I just wanted to get that Chargers rant out of the way. As far as Herbert goes, he's amazing. He really is. And he needs a better team around him. I will just say this. I'm not going to say he's a top 3 quarterback. He is a top 3 quarterback in the league. I'm not going to say he's a proven quarterback in the playoffs until he starts to get into more play. Whether he wins or loses, until he gets into and plays well in more playoffs games. But that's not just him. I can't say that about anybody. And playoffs matter. I know... I get that, hey, you can just play well in any game, but going into the playoffs, you ask any player, they'll tell you the speed is different, the momentum's different, a lot of things are different, and playing well in the playoffs matter. A lot of people can play good in the regular season, but you still... Aaron Rodgers, look at him recently.
Yeah, my entire thing wasn't about the Chargers. The Chargers definitely lost that game to themselves. Mine is defending Herbert specifically.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. He doesn't need to be defended. I mean, he probably needs to be defended because there's too many stupid people out there. I'm sorry, but it's true.
Herbert does not deserve the hate that he's been getting. That was the entirety of my argument.
That's fair. I think that's everything we have for the day. Yeah, cool. Well, hopefully Herbert will be back. I think he's going to be a great playoff quarterback as well one day. And they're going to be exciting to watch. I can't wait to see AFC Championship game with the Chargers and the Bengals. It's going to be
I could see it. That'd be fun. Herbert's fun to watch. Like I've said, he throws the ball unlike anyone I've ever seen with that zip. It's insane. But I guess that covers everything.
Fair enough. Cool. Well, we are almost right out of time. So I think we'll wrap this up for the day, and we'll join again for more episodes to come. I can't wait for the NFC Championship game. We'll have our picks in soon. Do you have anything else to add?
I do not believe so.
Cool. Well, until then, thank you so much for joining. Have a fantastic evening.